Well, hello there, guys. This is Mr. Causey. I have been excited to do this for a few days. I've been trying to work up the nerve, and also I needed the right equipment. I got this really neat tripod, and it's going to work okay for the meantime, but you can see how it sort of holds the camera really steady instead of, my holding it in my hand. And I got a really nice microphone, and it's picking up my voice really well, I think. So let me show you what this microphone looks like. Pretty cool, huh? It's got all these different settings you can do with it. So let's get into the book. I know we were eager to finish this, and this is the book Farmer Boy, as you remember. And I apologize in advance if sometimes the words get cut off from the camera angle the way it is like that. But anyway, all right, let's get started. I'm just going to do one chapter, and then I'll make more videos. So, the Little Bobsled. Snow was falling next morning when Almanzo rode with Father to the timber lot. Large feathery flakes made a veil over everything, and if you were alone and held your breath and listened, you could hear the soft, tiny sound of their falling. Father and Almanzo tramped through the falling snow in the woods, looking for straight, small oaks. When they found one, Father chopped it down. He chopped off all the limbs, and Almanzo piled them up neatly. Then they loaded the small logs on the bobsled. After that, they looked for two small, crooked trees to make curved runners. They must be 5 inches through and 6 feet tall before they began to curve. It was hard to find them. In the whole timber lot, there were no two trees alike. "You wouldn't find two alike in the whole world, son," Father said. "Not even two blades of grass are the same. Everything is different from everything else, if you look at it." They had to take two trees that were a little alike. Father chopped them down, and Almanzo helped load them on the bobsled. Then they drove home in time for dinner. That afternoon, Father and Almanzo made a little bobsled on the big barn floor. First, Father hewed the bottoms of the runners flat and smooth, clear around the crook of their turned-up front ends. Just behind the crook, he hewed a flat place on top, and he hewed another flat place near the rear ends. Then he hewed two beams for cross pieces. He hewed them 10 inches wide and 3 inches high, and sawed them 4 feet long. They were to stand on edge. He hewed out their corners to fit over the flat places on top of the runners. Then he hewed out a curve in their underneath edges to let them slip over the high snow in the middle of the road. He laid the runners side by side, 3.5 feet apart, and he fitted the cross beams on them, but he did not fasten them together yet. He hewed out 2 slabs, 6 feet long and flat on both sides. He laid them on the cross beams over the runners. Then with an auger, he bored a hole through a slab down past the cross beam into the runner. He bored close to the beam, and the auger made half an auger hole down the side of the beam. On the other side of the beam, he bored another hole like the first. Into the holes, he drove stout wooden pegs. The pegs went down through the slab and into the runner, and they fitted tightly into the half holes on both sides of the beam. 2 pegs held the slab and the beam and the runner firmly together at one corner of the sled. In the other 3 corners, he bored the holes, and Almanzo hammered in the pegs. That finished the body of the little bobsled. Now Father bored a hole crosswise in each runner, close to the front crossbeam. He hewed the bark from a slender pole and sharpened its ends so that they would go into the holes. Almanzo and Father pulled the curved ends of the runners as far apart as they could, and Father slipped the ends of the pole into the holes. When Almanzo and Father let go, the runners held the pole firmly between them. Then Father bored 2 holes in the pole close to the runners. They were to hold the sled's tongue. For the tongue, he used an elm sapling because elm is tougher and more pliable than oak. The sapling was 10 feet long from butt to tip. Father slipped an iron ring over the tip and hammered it down till it fitted tightly, 2.5 feet from the butt. He slipped the butt in two up to the iron ring, which kept it from splitting any farther. He sharpened the split ends and spread them apart and drove them into the holes in the crosswise pole. Then he bored holes down through the pole into the two ends of the tongue and drove the pegs into the holes. Near the tip of the tongue, he drove an iron spike down through it. The spike stuck out below the tongue. The tip of the tongue would go into the iron ring in the bottom of the calf's yoke, and when they backed, the ring would push against the spike, and the stiff tongue would push the sled backward. Now the bobsled was done. It was almost chore time, but Almanzo did not want to leave his little bobsled until it had a wood rack. So Father quickly bored holes down through the ends of the slabs into the crossbeams, and into each hole Almanzo drove a stake 4 feet long. The tall stakes stood up at the corners of the sled. They would hold the logs when he hauled wood from the timber. The storm was rising. The falling snow whirled, and the wind was crying with a lonely sound when Almanzo and Father carried the full milk pails to the house that night. Almanzo wanted deep snow so that he could begin hauling wood with the new sled. But Father listened to the storm and said they could not work outdoors next day. They would have to stay under shelter, so they might as well begin threshing wheat. That's really cool. You guys know a lot of times we will talk about just some insights that I have or you might have, and feel free to make comments if you can. I'm a little new to the whole making YouTubes and stuff like that, but if you can put comments there, that's fine, and we might be able to chit chat a little bit back and forth like that, and I might be able to talk about some of your questions in the next video as well. Looks like our next chapter is threshing. That should be interesting. Well, you guys stay safe, and I will talk to you later, okay? Love you guys. Talk to you later.